Please speak on Richard Wright's radical individualism, internal conflict, and his relationship with his father. Why did you decide to use him to exemplify the experiences of black males in America?
Well, I use Wright number one because he was very intentional about writing about the lives of young black men in America. This goes back to his first novel, Native Son, which really put him on the map. Now, a lot of people don't like it because they thought it was portraying too much of a negative picture of young black men, feeding into some of the stereotypes that people had at that time. You know, black men are violent. Black men all come from broken homes. Black men are prone to criminality and so forth. But Wright wanted to show there's a reason for this. I mean, they aren't born like this. A lot of this has to do with the social conditions that they're forced to live in, and how that kind of just, after a while, drives you crazy. Now, the interesting thing about Wright is Bigger Thomas is a main character in that novel. Now, Wright says, this is a scary thing about it. I bring this up in the book too. He said that there wasn't just one Bigger that he knew. There was a lot of Biggers, right? Now, some went crazy. Some did turn to violence.
Did you explain the character for people unfamiliar with it?
Yeah, Bigger Thomas. So a young man growing up in an urban environment, inner city environment, single parent household, mother's raising him. Early in the novel, is not violent at all, but he's hopeless, right? He doesn't have anything he wants to do. Man, he has a group of friends that he hangs around. They're friendly with each other. They're not going around robbing anybody. But after a period of time, things begin to change for him because of a crime that he commits in the novel. All right, he ends up killing a young woman only because he doesn't want to get caught. It's a white woman that he's working for. He doesn't want to get caught in a room with her because he knows that happens, all things are gonna come out. Oh, he's trying to rape her, or something wrong is going on. So he makes a very bad choice of murdering this young woman, and that turns into a spark, right? That's when he becomes violent and so forth. But going back to something I mentioned earlier about ideals and things like that, there's a scene in the book that I think is the most telling scene for me. He and his friends are having a conversation. There's a plane, one of those writing planes that writes messages in the sky. And one of his friends is saying, "Oh, look at the plane," and so forth. They're not really paying that much attention to what's being written. But Bigger Thomas goes into this whole thing about how white boys are the only ones that can fly, and he wants to fly, and he'll never have the chance. But it goes into this larger kind of idea that white people get to do all these glorious, grand things, while basically somebody like him who's in the ghetto, there's no chances, right? So number one is wrong because we still have these ideas like white people have all the fun and they live these great lives and get to do all these, which is not the case, right? And the other thing that feeds into is this idea that black people are stuck. You grow up in the ghetto, you're born in the ghetto, you're going to grow up in the ghetto, you're going to die in the ghetto. And he kind of bought into that. So I think Wright overall is trying to explore what is it about the way that young black men develop that leads to this kind of despair and can lead to criminality or some other form of negative behavior. Anyway, so that's part of kind of what he wants to explore in that novel, but he also talks about kind of the same things in his own autobiography, Black Boy. That's where the father comes in. All right, so up north, you're stuck in the ghetto, born, raised, you're gonna die there. Down south, his where he grew up, in Natchez, Mississippi, it was a plantation. So his father was a sharecropper, was born a sharecropper, grew up a sharecropper, and ultimately died as a sharecropper. And for Wright, that was a sign of hopelessness, right? Because his father never tried, he believed, hard enough to escape that environment. Now, the strange thing is, during a certain period of time, his father, Nathan Wright, did move the family up to Memphis, I believe, for a period of time, trying to find work, trying to improve the family's situation economically, but he failed. And Wright saw that. And after he failed, he went right back to the same plantation where Wright saw him years later on and just talked about how he was just as a symbol of despair and hopelessness, right? That you never try to change your lot in life, to improve change your environment, or try to educate yourself like Wright did. Wright never went to college. I didn't have any degrees, but he was self-educated, self-developed in a way. And he didn't see his father as someone who tried to do that. I think he lost a lot of respect for him because of that. So, I mean, the grand answer is kind of seeing his father's lack of growth, and also seeing how many African-American men in the city also experience that kind of lack of growth because of the social pressures put on them. It's something Wright really wanted to observe in some of his novels. And he did it well, I think. He was really the first to kind of give a very clear view of what these kind of social pressures can lead these men to become. Again, this is not natural, like Kant would say. There's naturally your environment. This is something you're destined to become. There are things that happen in your life that turn you into these kind of these figures like a bigger Thomas.
One thing I wanted to ask, right? I noticed that previous generations tend to criticize past generations, right? And sometimes it's unfair in the context that the previous generation didn't have the resources or the exposure that the current generation. Do you have you noticed that while studying stuff over the years in regards to people's expectation of their father?
Yeah, other father they didn't, but I mean, there are some that didn't have the resources and don't do what we expect, but there are some that lack resources and still will themselves to do great things. And that's what a lot of these men like Wright have in mind. All right? I mean, do you have the internal will to kind of pick yourself up, keep trying, despite all that people are saying, and make yourself better? And everybody doesn't have that will. Now you could blame whether father figure you have for failing to do these things, but I think Wright was very hard on his father and blaming him for not improving himself the way Wright thought he should have, based on Wright's own experience. Now Wright had a gift. I mean, he was a great writer. I mean, if it wasn't for that gift, or he didn't wasn't exposed to that gift early in life and was committed to really improving on that craft, who knows what he would have. He might have been there on the plantation working with his father. Who knows? His father never found out what he was good at. Now, his father at one time wanted to be called to the ministry, and that never happened. That's the one thing he thought could change his lot, and he gave up after that. Everybody's different. Some people, they can't take the getting up and hoping again and getting up and trying one more time. They try one good time. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to try this one time. I'm going to try to make things better. If that fails, I'm done. Other people, they could try 1,000 times. They're not going to quit. You know what I'm saying? So it's different. Everybody's different.